Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the December Sea Pines Community Coffee. My name is Amanda Sutcliffe-Jones. I'm the CSA Director of Communications. We welcome everybody attending in the in-person audience, and we also have 42 people joining us via webinar this morning. So welcome to those attendees wherever you may be located. We do have a large agenda this morning, so we'll just move right on along. Let me back up one second. Excuse me. As a courtesy, if you wouldn't mind, if you're in the audience, turn off your cell phones or silence them so we don't interrupt any presenters. So certainly would appreciate it. A few logistics. There is coffee and donuts over to the side. Exits, restrooms are in the back, and then the exit is to your, if you're seated, to your left. So, Board of Director election information. There are 3 seats open for the CSA Board of Directors and 3 seats open for the ASPO Board of Directors. Those terms begin on January 1st, 2019. Your ballots were sent out by postal mail, and let's take a look at those available candidates for both CSA and ASPO. Those are the names that appeared on both of those ballots. Some logistics, just as a reminder, October 1st, 2018 was the date of record for both CSA and ASPO, so you had to have been a member of ASPO by October 1st, 2018 in order to have received a ballot for the ASPO elections. For October 1st as well, that was the CSA date of record, so you had to own property in Sea Pines by that date to receive a CSA ballot. November 1st was the date that the CSA and ASPO ballots were mailed to all of our property owners. It was mailed to the notice of record of mailing, wherever that may be for you. December 1st, which just passed this last Saturday, was the deadline to have your CSA and ASPO ballots postmarked by. So you had to have them in the mail postmarked by that date. And they needed to go to mail by mail to Elliott Davis. They're located in Charleston, and that is our third-party CPA. The elections are being audited, like I mentioned, by Elliott Davis. They are currently being tabulated by Elliott Davis as well. The process that happens between now and when they get the results, as they are being tabulated, Elliott Davis will provide the official results to CSA and ASPO. The chairman get those results, and they contact all of the candidates to make notifications to all the candidates on who were the winners. Following those notifications to the candidates, CSA will use our communication channels to announce the results to the community. So we post it on our website, our Facebook page, and we also send that out via mass email to the community through those communication channels. You still can learn more about your candidates if you haven't already done so. You can visit our website at seapinesliving.com/election candidates to learn more. Upcoming events. In January, we have our ASPO Board of Directors meeting. It's going to be on January 17th here at the Sea Pines Community Center at 9 a.m. The CSA Board of Directors meeting is going to be on January 22nd here in the Community Center at 3 p.m. Our next coffee is scheduled for February 6th at 9 here in the Community Center. And then in February on the 7th, we have an AARP Safe Drivers course coming up. It's going to be from 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Do plan accordingly because it is a long meeting, but we will have some details on how to sign up come into the community shortly. A few other important upcoming deadlines. You may have seen it in our recent email communications, also on our Facebook page and website. We communicated this information. The ASPO bylaws are looking to be amended. So the ASPO Governance Task Force is working very diligently to do so. In late August 2018, the ASPO Governance Task Force submitted the proposed set of amendments to the restated ASPO bylaws to the community for comment. Thank you to everyone who provided comment to those proposed amendments to the restated bylaws. They went back, reviewed those, brought another revised set to the board of ASPO on November 8th. The board approved that to be brought back to the community. So that's the stage that we're in right now. We are collecting comments from November 29th to January 15th, 2019, and that is an extension on that deadline. So please make that note. You have until January 15th, 2019 if you're interested in commenting on the proposed set of amendments to the restated ASPO bylaws. And you can do so by visiting our website, www.seapinesliving.com/ASPO bylaw review, and they'll be able to review those bylaws as well as the red line document of that version as well. Community referendum survey. Brett will talk about this a little bit later in his presentation, but I just wanted to make this note. We did send out that survey via email to Sea Pines property owners who have an email on file with CSA. If for some reason you don't have an email on file with us and you would like to fill out the survey, we'd love for you to do so. Just send us an email at info@csaseapines.com and we'll be able to get you your community referendum survey. The deadline to complete that specific survey is December 10th at 11:59 p.m. and that's next Monday. Like I mentioned, Brett will give us some information about that survey later in his presentation. CSA holiday hours. 'Tis the season. Happy holidays to everybody. Just want to get the holiday hours out to you guys so you are aware of our office closings. Christmas office hours are listed here. You can see those. And then our New Year's office hours are listed here as well. As always, from a communication department perspective, if we can be of any assistance to you, please email us, info@csaseapines.com. You can contact us at 843-671-1343 as well and speak to the communications department. We're here to help. So at this time, I will bring up Jean McElroy, who is our communications coordinator, and Jean is going to cover some information for the Sea Pines Community Guidebook. Jean.
I always forget. Good morning. I have to tell you that as a former teacher, it always is amazing to me that we can fill a room this size with warm bodies that are coming here voluntarily to be educated and are fairly well behaved. So we appreciate that as a staff. Your education and your knowing what's going on in our community helps you, of course, but it helps the staff too. If we can get the right information out to you and the facts and so on, then certainly it helps us in the end also. So thank you for being here from all the staff. The communications department has known for quite a while that there was a kind of a big piece missing as far as communications goes, and that was one source or one resource where people could go and get answers about what Sea Pines is, you know, the who, what, when, and where of Sea Pines. And so we put together a guidebook, 32-page guidebook, and that guidebook is for everyone. It can benefit everyone, but particularly our target audiences are new owners who come with a zillion questions and they need to be able to find the answers quickly so they don't get frustrated. So that is one of our target markets for that. And then the other is for prospective new owners, because it really benefits us and the new prospective owner to understand this community before they actually make that big decision to buy in here. They need to understand our uniqueness. And I think we all realize that we are unique. So that is another target for our guidebook. We've kind of put together a package. Do we have a picture of the package? And what I've done is included the guidebook for the facts and figures. And then we have also included a link to that wonderful video that we have. So they can find the facts and figures, then they can sit in their armchair and take that tour of our beautiful community and see what's all available to them. And then we provide a map so they can find it. So that's our package. And we have decided that at least for the first phase, we're going to put it on a flash drive, a Sea Pines flash drive, and keep it digital for a while. And the two reasons for that, or the two main reasons, are that we hope that as we get this out there and as it's being used, we will get feedback from the users. That's the feedback that is important to us. They can tell us what's missing, you know, what they found confusing. I mean, we can look at it all day long, and believe me, we have. But they have the important information for us. So by having it digital, we can go in and make changes and then not have 500 copies in the closet that are already outdated. So that's one of the reasons. The second reason is that when you go into the guidebook and it's digital, you can actually click on live links that are there. So for instance, if you're paging through and you see that we actually have a service that delivers mulch, you can click on that link. It'll take you right to the website and the form, and you can order it and press a button, and we have received your order. So it's a more effective, efficient way to use it also. So since we have it on the digital, we also have a that costs, it's actually cheaper than printing. But for other people that come in and want to find this information on our website, we also put together a little business card that has the link so that we can hand this out to realtors or to anybody that wants to come in and find out more about our community. And this will take them right to the part of the website that has all three of these features. All right, if you want to, we will take a look then at the guidebook, and I'll just point out some things that we have included, and you may have some ideas. All right, if you want to just go ahead. The page right after table of contents, or the couple of pages after the table of contents. I guess I could click it. Can I click it? Okay. I have a clicker, but I'll just tell you. These 2 pages, the first 2 pages in the book, are truly for new owners. They're things that they need to do before they go to the golf course. They have to know how to get their decal. They have to know how to get their ID. We want them to set up an account on the website. We want them to know how to get their mail delivered and what they have to do for that. If they're putting their home on the rental market, then we have some information about that and clicks to the forms that they will need. So that actually is specifically for new owners. Next. The next few pages are also basically for new owners, but you might find it interesting. I bet every one of us, or most of us, I should say, have come here from a different state. And then 60% or so of us still own out-of-state homes as our main residence. So we thought it would be good to address location. And so we took the history and the geography of the state of Hilton Head Island. And then if you'll flip, Amanda, you'll see that we also have the history and geography of Sea Pines specifically, and of course our star, Charles Fraser. Then we get into the organization of Sea Pines and CSA. And we talk about our mission. We talk about the different agencies that we have to comply with. And if you'll flip again, we talk about Class A and Class B. What does that mean? We talk about our rules and regulations. We have an org chart so that people can try to start to understand where everything fits. And then we end with actually encouraging people to become active in their government of Sea Pines and to join the committees and so on. So there's information there for that. Okay. This page, related entities administered by CSA, I keep running into this thing. I think that this probably is maybe the most important page in here. And I say that because it really tells why we're unique. If you read it and see how many different kinds of organizations and agencies that we are related to, I mean, how many communities have a cemetery, and a huge forest preserve, and so on and so on. So this really shows our uniqueness, and I think it's very important for new owners to understand that. And then the other feature that is kind of confusing to people that have not lived in a gated community is we really have to get permission to cut down a tree. We really have to get permission to not paint our door purple. And so we want them to understand that there are rules that they have to go through the ARB to get some permissions. They may be able to do it, but they have to get permission. Okay? And then we go into each of the entities and the amenities and so on. So if you want to just flip, Amanda, a few times, we have ASPO, and we have Forest Preserve, and you'll see all of the entities that we have described up there. And then we get to page 20, the next page. And this is just to show people a broader picture of the community. These are amenities that they have within their community that are very special and that they can have use of. Lot and stables in the different shopping areas and so on. So we just want to make sure people understand the total of their community. And then we get into our departments and our services. And we have devoted a 2-page spread for each department. So it'll be communications, and then security, and then maintenance. And you'll notice all along there's active links. So when there's a place where they need to go to get more information on the website, it takes them directly there. And of course, finance. And then on the last page, we've included contact information for the staff and so on, and then also outside of the gate numbers and so on that anybody might want handy, but particularly new owners. And then a little corner for the community center so people realize that that is an amenity that they also have use of. And then this last page, not very exciting, but probably the second most important page in the book, because it has gotten to be 32 pages, is that they can look up mulch and go to page 26 without having to page and page and page and page through it. So that is a very useful page also. All right, so that is our resource, our community guide. And before I turn it over, I want to show you one more thing that I showed you, that we have a map. And if you'll open it up, Amanda, the map has landmarks on the left, then the streets on the right, and the landmarks are marked so that they can look up the numbers and letters over here and find where those landmarks are located. And then the pictures at the very left also have links under them that take them to maps. So we have 3 more maps there. We have the trolley map, we have the Forest Preserve map, and we have the Leisure Trail map. So if you click on those links below, it'll take you right to our website and to a copy of the maps there. That's our package for, as I said, mostly new owners, but I noticed in the survey that some of you aren't aware of all of the services, for instance, that maintenance provides. So maybe you'll want to page through this and kind of get familiar with all of those. But I will tell you, before I go, I can't sit down without saying this, we can provide all of the information to you all day long, to new owners all day long. We know from new owners that they want to have information in the beginning so that they feel more comfortable and get assimilated more quickly. So we will provide that information. But the bottom line is that nothing beats a knock on the door from a neighbor holding a bottle of wine or a plate of cookies and saying, welcome. So we'll provide the information. You need to provide the knock. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jean. Let me adjust this. Thank you so much, Jean. We certainly appreciate all your hard work. I had to pull it up a little bit. I did, yes. So again, this is your resource. We look to you guys for your feedback. Please, 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 take the time to look at it. Even if you've been a resident for 15, 20 years, I think you're going to find something new in here for everybody. So please take a look at it. And and we encourage you to use it. And to be honest with you, the map is still quite convenient because I've been here for 3 years and I still find new streets myself sometimes. Surprisingly, it's a big community. So at this time, we'll welcome David Henderson. David Henderson is our Director of Special Projects and Operations, and David will cover his agenda items. David.
Thank you, Amanda, and good morning. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Sea Pines Garden Club. They were very, very helpful and gracious and offered to decorate our lovely Christmas tree this year. So I don't know if there's any members in the audience, but I did want to say thank you very much and give them an acknowledgement for doing that for us. All right, I'm going to start yet again with Beach and Boardwalk, give you a quick update. The moratorium is still in place from beach markers 18 to 47. If there are any oceanfront owners in here, I'll be around after and would be happy to talk to you about some of the changes that the Forest Preserve trustees made to the policy as it relates to the rebuilding of boardwalks. So we are in post-storms conditions, and there have been some changes to the policy that have the objective of trying to better protect the dunes so that they can recover to the best possible way, so that if we are unfortunate enough at some point in the future to have another event, that we'll have that protection, not only for those oceanfront homes, but for the community as a whole. So the changes have been approved by the trustees at their meeting last month, and they are currently under legal review. So once we do have that legal review completed, we will be communicating those changes out. But in the interim, if anybody has any changes, please let me know. Also happy to report that the 2019 budget that was recently approved does include funds for extending and raising the ends of both boardwalks at Tower Beach. These are boardwalks number 13 and 14. It's important to note that the changes to the beach trust policy that I just referenced, they apply to CSA as well. And so what CSA will be doing as we go forward when we maintain or replace is to follow those policy changes. And here's a good example of where the policy change will have some effects on what we need to do. This is boardwalk number 14, or the boardwalk, not the main boardwalk, but the secondary boardwalk at Tower Beach. And what you can see from this photo, and if you've walked it recently or actually in the past year or so, you'll notice that this boardwalk, that when it was originally constructed, was built to all the regulatory requirements. But because of changes in dune conditions, post-storm, post-renourishment, post-fencing, post-vegetation, sand has and will continue to move. And so the current condition is that the boardwalk, which is there to provide access, but primarily to protect the dune, is now compromising the dune. So instead of being on top of the dune, at the terminus of the boardwalk, as you can see, it actually disappears down into the dune. So with the approved budget, it is our intention to, as soon as possible after the first of the year, based on contractor availability, to extend and raise those boardwalks so that they are no longer compromising the integrity of the dune system. Going to switch to the Forest Preserve quickly. I would like to point out, if you may have noticed in Jean's excellent presentation, how so many of the photos in that new owner's book, including 2, if I remember, on the cover, were taken in the Forest Preserve. I believe another one was Tower Beach. People we know from surveys find the environment and the beach and the outdoors so attractive, and one of the key considerations that led them to purchase in Sea Ponds. So the Forest Preserve is a wonderful community asset that if you all have not taken advantage of or visited, I would encourage you to do so. We do have our 2019 calendars that are available. If you contribute $75 or more to our annual drive, you will receive a copy in the mail, or you could purchase one for $10 at the CSA building. I have an example here. I'll have it later if you want to look at it. The photography is all taken in the Forest Preserve, is all donated by Jim Hartley Smith, who has for many years now donated graciously all the photography for the calendar. And this year is our 10th edition. I mentioned our annual drive. If you have not received a letter, or if you have and you haven't had an opportunity to review it, please ask that you do. As you're considering your end-of-year charitable contributions, would like you to consider the Forest Preserve. The Forest Preserve is a 501c3, and if you have not received a letter, please contact us at CSA, and we'll be happy to get the information that you need. But we do rely almost entirely on the generosity of others to maintain our natural treasure, and we appreciate whatever consideration you can give. On November 9th, we had our bonfire, which is our signature event. I wanted to take this opportunity to give appreciation and recognition to all those, the resort, all the sponsors. We had BB&T, Heritage Classic Foundation, Arbor Nature, Greg's Decks and Docks, Atlantic Asphalt, and H2O Sports. We also had Cranston Engineering, who supported us at the friend of the bonfire level. This year, if any of you here were able to attend, and I see some familiar faces that have, I hope that you found it to be one of the best ones yet. I know that I did, and from the organizer of the event, I found it to be, relatively speaking, the easiest one to administer, and in large part, that was due to the Salty Dog. The Salty Dog this year graciously donated all of the food for the event, which was a significant cost savings to the Forest Preserve, meaning that our net from the event was that much higher. The offering was as diverse as it's ever been, and the friendliness and the service from the staff was phenomenal. So I would at this time like to have a quick presentation. Mark, if you would come up. Mark
Sure.
Griffith is the chairman of the CSA Board of Directors, and Mark is also the chairman of the Sea Pines Forest Preserve Foundation Trustees. Nathan, if you'd like to come up, please.
We have a plaque and a letter that we have addressed to Bob Gossett, and I will just read an excerpt. It says, "Your support this year was exemplary. Each year you have contributed to the event as a sponsor, but this year you went above and beyond. The food you served was delicious and universally praised by the attendees. Beyond that, the level of service exhibited by you and your staff was the best in the history of the event. Person after person commented on the professionalism and their focus on the customer service." Nathan, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark and Nathan. All right, community events. So we have our property owner holiday open house. It's coming up. It's actually 6 days from today, Tuesday, December 11th. It's at Tower Beach, which is at 99 South Sea Pines Drive. It is from 3 to 6 p.m. All property owners are invited. We will be providing hors d'oeuvres, beer, wine, non-alcoholic beverages. Parking is limited at Tower Beach, so we encourage you to walk, bike, and carpool. We will have trolley service from Parcel 1 for overflow. Parcel 1 is that open piece of property that is just beyond Tower Beach, on your left, just before Land's End. We will have trolley service supporting the event from there. It's a great event. I hope if you haven't had a chance to attend previously that you would consider attending this year. That's coming up Tuesday, December 11th. Gene had mentioned some of the entities, including the Forest Preserve earlier. Well, Six Oaks Cemetery is one of those. Wanted to make you aware of our upcoming Wreaths Across America ceremony. It is on Saturday, December 15th, and will be at 12 noon. This is a great way of thanking and acknowledging the service from our veterans. If you're not familiar with the Wreaths Across America program, it is a national program that Six Oaks participates in. At the ceremony, you will have an opportunity to lay a wreath. There will be a wreath laid on every single veteran's grave in Six Oaks Cemetery. You also have the ability to sponsor a wreath. There's information on the screen, but you would write the check to Wreaths Across America, and you can bring it into CSA and give it to John Hunter with Six Oaks Cemetery. You can sponsor a wreath for $15. It's a very nice event. If you haven't been to it, I would ask you to consider it. Again, Saturday, December 15th. And I'll end with one more on Six Oak Cemetery. Six Oak Cemetery is a perpetual care cemetery, and the way that it will be cared for perpetually is through a perpetual care fund. If you live or have your address of record in the state of South Carolina or in the metropolitan Atlanta area, you have or you will be soon receiving a direct mail from Six Oaks. We couldn't send it to everybody because of budget considerations, so we tried to stay as close as we could, but you should be getting that. And one of the two letters that is in there is a solicitation for contributions to the Perpetual Care Fund. The Six Oaks Cemetery is a 501c13. Your contributions are tax deductible, and that would go directly into the fund and allow us in perpetuity to maintain the high standards that we have at Six Oaks Cemetery. And again, as you're reviewing your end of year charitable contributions along with the Forest Preserve, would really appreciate you considering the Perpetual Care Fund for Six Oaks. All right, Toby is next. That's all I had. I really appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Good morning. Happy holidays to everyone. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving and looking forward to the upcoming holidays. Just one quick update about the holidays. New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, Harbortown will still have their events going on. Parking in the Harbortown area will be limited and restricted. So once we kind of fill up Harbortown, New Year's Eve, we're not going to allow any more vehicles down because all it does is cause a traffic jam. So please plan for that. Report-wise for security, no major incidents to report for the month of November. We did respond to a little over 2,600 calls for service. Looking back at our records, we had 4 accidents the month of automobile accidents the month of November, which is probably one of the lowest on record that I could find, which is very good. It's nice to see that, and I think actually a couple of those were actually vehicle versus deer. So the accidents hopefully will continue to go down. Speeding. That seems to be the topic of the community, or at least the security department right now. Let me just state something, and I'm sure that probably many of you are already aware of this. The security officers inside of Sea Pines are licensed through the state of South Carolina. Under our regulation, it states that the security department in Sea Pines and every other location has the same authority as a deputy sheriff in the state of South Carolina. With that, they do have the abilities and the authority to write traffic tickets inside of Sea Pines. And with that, all of our patrol cars are equipped with video cameras, as well as the officers are wearing body cams. So when you tell the officer what he or she can do with the ticket that was written, it will be played in court. And I can tell you, if you had the opportunity to speak with someone from Sea Pines who have received a ticket lately and had the appearance in court, it did not go over very well. So we do have the authority, whether you want us to or not. All I'm asking is, if you don't want a ticket, drive the speed limit. It does not matter. It's 1 o'clock in the morning and you're going to the airport and you and the officer are the only ones on the road. If you're doing 65 on Greenwood Drive, you're going to get a ticket. We wrote one last week, 70 on Greenwood Drive. So with that, I'm not going to beat this dead horse anymore. If you don't want a ticket, don't want to go to court, then drive the speed limit. That's all we're asking. Just a quick update for some other stuff. Holiday scams. I mention this literally every year. There's already victims in Beaufort County that's fallen victim to this. It's your money. You do with what you want. I don't know of too many organizations that call your home and ask for a donation, because when you write that check and you send it, you'd have no idea where it ends up at. I don't think Beaufort County's ever made an arrest on a scam where you've sent money off either via the internet or in the mail to someone that really wasn't not the actual intent. So make sure that the donation that you're making is going to a reputable organization. Soliciting, we don't allow soliciting. It's against the law in Hilton Head to begin with. So be very careful. The scams are out there, and it seems like they come up with new ones every year. You know, and for the life of me, they've been working this one with the Walmart, where they call you on behalf of a law enforcement agency and said you didn't appear in court for a subpoena and that you have to pay a fine, but they want you to get green dots or stamps from Walmart where you got to go to Walmart to pay your fine. And people are doing this. So no court that would fine you, one, is going to have you go pay Walmart. So please don't. It's your money, but be very cautious, because everyone is out there working these scams. If you have construction going on, we ask, please plan that with us. If you're building a house, you have a major renovation taking place. If you live on a T street and you're getting furniture delivered, let the company know a 53-foot tractor trailer can't fit on the T streets and Sea Pines. Please plan that out with us. What we don't want is for the tractor trailer to show up and we bring all of South Sea Pines Drive to a stop because the driver has no idea where he was going, and that this is not going to fit. So if you live in one of these tight street neighborhood and it's coming via tractor trailer, they're probably going to have to use a secondary truck to get these items to your home. The power line easements inside of Sea Pines, we allow the trucks to park there and they can transport whatever you need, whether it's construction materials, furniture, whatever you have going on. Please plan that out with us. Schedule large deliveries. With the construction, we have one that we're dealing with right now. If you have a major renovation that's taking place, you can't remove all the contents of your home that you don't want anymore and put it in your front lawn and leave it for a month. It has to go into a construction container, or it has to leave Sea Pines. You can't turn your front yard into this big disposal area where all the sheetrock and everything that's being replaced is in the front yard. It has to go into a container. So please, so if you've got something going on, ultimately the property owner is responsible for it. When you hire your contractor, let them know there is rules and regulations that's dealing with construction and debris and materials inside of Sea Pines. Please don't leave it out. And especially what we're doing, don't put it on CSA Common Space. We don't want it either. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Decals. Property owners are giving decals for a reason, and it makes it easier for you. We want to identify that you're a property owner, you're supposed to be here, and get you through the gate as fast as we can. If you have your decal taped up on the inside of your car, it's in violation of policy. The officer's going to stop you. There's also video cameras at the front gates. So please, it's not security staff harassing the property owners. Everyone in Sea Pines has to put their decal on the windshield of their vehicle so it's visible to the officer that's trying to get you in to get you to your home. That's what it's for. And for the property owner that still refuses to put the decal in the proper spot, well, actually he's got it on his rear bumper. It is the loving season, so I'm going to be nice. Please come on. I mean, this is. I mean, it's almost dealing with romper rooming kids. This is a service that we're providing to you, and all we're asking you to do is just put the decal on the windshield. That's it. We are moving to a new process. I understand that people don't like the decals on the windshield of the cars. That's the process that we have currently to get you into the gates. We are moving into a new program where you may not have to put a decal on your vehicle that says Sea Pines or anything on it. It will be clear. No one would even know that it's there, but we're not at that stage yet. So all we're asking, please put the decals in the proper location. The bike codes at all entering both gates have been changed, so please make note of that. The beach, please utilize the beach, but you can't bring your chairs and leave them on the beach. If you're planning to go to the beach today, don't take your chairs and leave them when you're planning to go tomorrow. When you leave the beach, your property has to leave with you. That also includes, please don't chain it to any of our boardwalks. That's not the storage location for your beach chair, so you don't want to have to carry it to the beach. So please take it with you. I think that's all I have. I hope everyone has a great season, holiday season. If there's anything that we can do, if you're driving and you're going to be away from the holidays, we have done 1,299 house checks the month of November. So if you would like your home to be checked, it's a free service that we offer. So please, you can call the security office. And speaking of that, one last issue that I do want to cover, wildlife services. We have a lot of wildlife in sea pines. Sometimes that ends up in locations that we don't particularly want. We will provide whatever service and we can to you to remove an animal. So if you have raccoons that's getting in your garbage can, we have traps and stuff that we can deal with that to help you out. If the raccoon gets in your attic or a squirrel gets in your attic, that's above our service. You're going to have to call a professional to extract the animal from your home. If it gets in, it's in your garage, we probably can go in and deal with removing a raccoon or a squirrel from your garage, or a bird, or whatever that case may be. The protocols that we use is in accordance with our license through South Carolina DNR. A lot of the stuff that we do are removing. If we trap a raccoon from your property, we're not allowed to relocate it. So there's things that the animal is euthanized. Now, if you do not want to use the services that we provide at the security department, that's fine. You are more than welcome to hire your own person that can do with whatever. That person also is going to follow the same rules and regulations that we are. But that's how things are dealt with. That's what our permit says that we do. So we will help you out. We have traps. What we don't want, if you have bought a live trap and you're catching your own animals, don't call us to deal with your animal. We don't pick your animals up. The only animals that we remove are the ones that we trap. So when we start the process, we have our protocol that we utilize, and that's what we go with. So if you catch your animal, he belongs to you. Okay, so and you got to be very cautious. I know a lot of the homeowners do their own trapping, which is fine. Lot of 5 cases last year of raccoons that we removed tested positive for rabies. So be very careful when you're dealing with stuff like that. But we are here for you. Call us if you need us. And again, happy holidays.
Good morning. Hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Just want to provide a few updates this morning on Greenwood Drive. Obviously, it's still an active construction site. We have not finished. We have a ways to go. Just wanted to provide a couple specific updates on phase 1. We have a long list of punch items to complete, some of which is happening as we speak, with some additional roadside grading. We have a contractor out there today that's performing additional asphalt repairs on the leisure trails in proximity to Carolina Place, Lot 2, and then the paving of Lake Forest, the entrance to Lake Forest. Additionally, there's some roadway imperfections that we'll be addressing in due time. With the upcoming holidays, will not provide us an ample opportunity to do that with the cold weather and limitations on the availability of some asphalt, but we are planning on that for sometime after the holidays, as we have received some feedback about the roadway conditions out there. But we are working hand in hand with our engineer and our contractor to perform those corrections on the roadway. We also have a landscaping and package that we're working on now to landscape the roadway. We plan, or hopefully to start on that after the new year, and that's some pretty substantial landscaping up and down Greenwood Drive along the entire corridor is something that we really want to work to enhance the roadway in many areas. So more to come on the landscape plan, but that's something that we are continuing to work on. Greenwood Drive, phase 2 from Plantation Drive back to Governor's Road. We do not have a schedule set in stone at this point. We're looking at a couple options, one of them being this spring between January and March. There's a couple other options that are available to us, and those are more future dates, be future projects in years to come. But just want to point out, we worked with some property owners in proximity to Hearthwood Drive to work on the redesign of the Plantation Drive intersection in Greenwood. We ran through a bunch of different exercises on this, including a traffic, looking at the possibility of a traffic circle. We spent countless hours coming up with this solution, which will greatly improve the traffic flow and safety in the proximity to the intersection. And you can see here on this right-hand side, there's an extended turning lane. This is about 150 some odd feet long with channelization. And when I say channelization, these are very low concrete medians that would be in the roadway to have vehicles essentially dedicate their dedicated turn. So if you're making this left turn out of Plantation Drive, there would be more of an expectation to know that this person would indeed be making the right-hand turn down Plantation going to Harbortown. The same could be said for making the left turn back onto Greenwood. There's an additional concrete medians that are in these locations, which provides an acceleration lane back onto Greenwood Drive, as well as if you're coming from Fraser Circle, there's an additional dedicated turning lane down to Plantation Drive. So this exercise was completed in conjunction with our engineers, the town of Hilton Head, and as well as some other traffic engineers. And we feel it's a great solution. And as I said earlier, we did work hand in hand with the property owners in that area towards this, and hopefully we can implement it in the very near future. Just a few other updates on projects that we've been working on, the Sea Pines Timber Bridges. We recently completed the crosswalk stamping in 2 locations adjacent to Beach Walk 25 and 26. We still have a bunch of detail work to complete, but essentially the bridge construction itself is about 95% complete at this point. Most recently, the stainless steel railings, cables were installed on each side, and I'm really pleased the way the project turned out. We received a lot of positive feedback, and certainly there's a lot more projects like this to complete throughout Sea Pines. In fact, the Lawton Canal Leisure Trail Bridge is another project that's slated for 2019 for us to execute. Deer Island Bridge, we are working with our contractor and hope to get started on this right after the new year, the repairs on the bridge. And if anyone's not familiar, the bridge is located down in the Harbortown area, not far from the Marriott Harbor Club. We hope to perform this work in about 2 to 3 months' time. And as part of the project, there will be alternating lane closures on the bridge in order to perform this work. As part of it, we have to drive new piles to support the bridge and replace the decking. So again, this is an exciting project, hopefully one that we could bring to closure later this spring in 2019. Holiday lighting. I would have to say my Christmas spirit was a little bit ahead of Mr. David Henderson's this year, but nonetheless, we have our holiday lighting, and it came out very good. Short story on my end. I was so excited about the holiday lighting here. I thought I'd put the decorations up at my house and got the front lights on the front railing on the porch, and it's on and looking good. The following night, my dog went out there and actually ate a strand of lights. I couldn't believe it. I never heard of a dog eating Christmas lights until this year. Well, he's 9 months old now, and hopefully he doesn't do it again. But and he did it with the lights are on, so I'm glad he's still alive. Nonetheless, our flower rotation is complete and looking really good out there for the winter months. Mulching and pine strung is in progress throughout the property. We're working on cutting back a lot of our perennial plants, and our leisure trail and roadway repairs are ongoing. One thing to note, we'll be performing some repair work on beach walk number 23 to the concrete walkway, and as well as there's some bunch of topsoil that we'll be bringing in there to regrade along the walk, and some modest landscaping at the where the walkway meets South Beach Lane is something that we'll be working on. So just wanted to mention that we did just recently complete repairs as well as beach walk 26 to the concrete walkway. So we have a bunch of projects planned in 2019 that Victoria will go through in more detail a little bit later, but just want to mention that. So this is a picture that I think I explained to Amanda the other day what my point was going to be with this photo. Toby actually took this from his new helicopter. We all thought Toby was just buying beach buggies, but Toby, how'd you get approval for the chopper? We don't know. Brett? Okay. So we want to talk about tree care and how important tree care is to this community. And, you know, throughout my career, I've worked in the out of doors and had the privilege in working in a historic landmark park. And Charles Fraser shared a similar vision to Frederick Law Olmsted, John Muir, Gifford Pinchot, Teddy Roosevelt, as others. Many of those famous people knew about preservation. And the point of this slide is, I think we all know what this tree is here, the Liberty Oak. Charles Fraser changed his design of Harbortown to accommodate this tree. The original design of Harbortown was supposed to come back on this semicircle. Kerry helped me out with this if I need it, but at any rate, the Liberty Oak was preserved. And my message to this community is that we need to take action now on preserving the trees that we have for the future. This includes tree pruning, tree removal, unfortunately, and tree planting. This is an essential part of the upcoming referendum that Brett and Victoria will be talking more about the financials, but this is a huge, huge important matter in my mind. So Six Oaks Park, these historic live oaks are probably hundreds and hundreds of years old. We need to continue to work to preserve these trees. Some of the goals of our tree care program would be develop a proactive and comprehensive program throughout the community, improve public safety, mitigate storm damaged trees, manage and eliminate invasive species of trees and vines, follow the industry standards, develop a long-term plan and strategy and mitigation schedule for the community, especially in areas of intense use, primary roadways, secondary roads, common spaces, beach paths, and also hire a dedicated staff member that would be out there executing these inspections on a proactive basis. Our community is being choked by very invasive vines. If you go into many areas, you don't have to go far, just walk along the trolley lots and you'll see this. Grapevines, Virginia creeper, trumpet vine, wisteria, and poison ivy are choking the trees in the community. You could see effects like this if you're coming onto the island across from the Tanger shopping centers. You'll see a wall of green. That is what will happen here in Sea Pines if we do not take action now. So these are, again, important. This is an important program, and no pun intended, but this is interwoven or entangled with the trees. These trees are being choked out by these aggressive vines throughout the community. In fact, a great area to go look at is right here behind Sea Pine Center, where you'll see a lot of that choking out of the canopy of trees. So other things that we're aware of at this time, we've had numerous storms: Tropical Storm Hermine, Hurricane Matthew, Tropical Storm Irma, Winter Storm Grayson, Hurricane Michael. These are all things that have impacted the trees throughout our community over time, and again, have added to the need to take action now and not defer this further down the road. So tree defects and deferred maintenance. Brett has talked about this deferred maintenance often. I've seen this firsthand throughout my career, especially in New York, when New York City deferred maintenance for probably a half a century on New York City parks. Here in Sea Pines, this maintenance has also been deferred for way too long. The trees that you see in these photographs should have been removed 20 some odd years ago. We need to take this action and essentially at this point play catch up. The further that we push this program down the road, the cost will increase. There'll be more trees to remove, again, if we don't take some proactive steps today. Storm affected trees. Again, we know I mentioned the storms earlier. This community and the entire island was unfortunately very hard hit by Matthew, but that was only a category 1. In fact, Matthew probably helped clean up a lot of the trees that were part of the deferred maintenance that I'm speaking about, but we still have a ways to go. So I just want to share some methodology and some background on tree pruning. When we often talk about the crown of the tree, obviously it's the part that keeps us cool in the summer. It provides us a shade. It provides the ambiance of sea pines. And this is the part of the tree that we're talking about pruning, taking action on, raising the crown of the tree where it's too low over a roadway, or what we call a crown reduction, where we would have to reduce the weight limit of that tree over a road. And of course, tree removal. I know this slide's a little challenging to see from the back of the room, but again, these are important aspects of arboriculture and something that and part of this program that we really, again, need to act on moving forward. So I want to speak about a tree sampling, a stratified tree sampling inventory that we engaged with Davie Resource Group. Unfortunately, our board certified master arborist who is going to be giving this presentation today has been hospitalized for some time, and therefore I'm going to try and deliver some of the salient points of his findings. But again, the purpose of this study was to kind of tell us what's going on out there, to get a pulse on the condition of these trees around the community, analyze the stand. So the condition assessment was essentially, we divide the property up into what we refer to as the sample plots to gain our data. So there's probably somewhere in the order of 150,000 plus trees in sea pines, which is a huge number. In order to inventory those trees, we're talking about a very huge number and a lot of time. So this was the best approach to take, again, to kind of get a snapshot, again, of what's going on the property and what actions that we need to take, and would also help us develop a financial budget moving forward. Just wanted to share some of the results, and these are concerning. On these two slides you'll see here, what would you say, what's concerning about this? And you can see here, we have a very low species diversity. Loblolly pine, live oaks, sable palm, sweet gums. The sweet gums in here, and particularly in the Hilton Head area, are very aggressive and will push other trees out. So you can see by the nature of this slide that we need to work on improving species diversity, and that will occur through planting and replenishment and landscaping throughout the community. This happens to be our right-of-ways. Again, very low species diversity. And again, here in the open spaces, there again, very low species diversity in this instance. Mostly loblolly pine and sweet gum. Very concerning. Sweet gum and loblolly pine will push out the other species that we potentially would have out there and around the property. So some of the additional findings that we have based on conditions, in open space areas, there's approximately 130,000 trees. To put that in perspective, Again, based on my experience, compared to New York City and Central Park, we had 24,000 trees. So you could exponentially, that's a lot of trees to try and maintain. Approximately more than 5,000 of those trees are in need of removal as we speak. Another almost 16,000 trees are in need of pruning. This is something that's going to take us the next 20 some odd years to accomplish. But again, the further that we push this out, the more it's going to cost. Road right-of-ways, approximately another 13,000 trees along the road right-of-ways. Another 2,000 recommended for removal. Another almost 1,200 trees recommended for pruning. This is a huge task. On any given day, one contractor could probably remove 2 or 3 trees, maybe 4. On any one day, a contractor could probably prune about anywhere in the order to 8 to 10 trees. You know, Victoria will be talking to the budget in detail, but again, this is a significant task and a significant challenge for our community. Again, something that we need to work on raising funds to accomplish and take care of. So some of the operating costs, and again, Victoria is going to be speaking about this more. Storm repairs and mitigation, the arborist, in terms of operating, you're looking at over $100,000 on an annual basis for the next 20 years. Major projects, equipment replacements and improvements, which is your storm repair and mitigation, is essentially the action that we need to take through contracted services. Well over $400,000 a year. So again, I can't stress enough how important this is. Equally important as the drainage in Sea Pines. It's equally important as fixing our roadways. It's imperative that we take this action sooner than later. As I said, it's only becomes a taller task down the road. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Victoria Shanahan, our Director of Finance, and she's going to take us through the 2019 budget. Thank you very much, and have a great holiday season upcoming.
Good morning. One of my biggest challenges when I present these slides is not only putting the information in a way that you can understand, but putting the information up here in a way that you can actually see. So I tried something different this time, and I put it in this format. Can you see this? Better than in the past where I was using a light background with a black numbers. Okay, well, good. Well, this will work better than going forward. I will be brief. This is our 2019 budget that was approved back in November. There's just a couple points here that I know you're interested in. First, the residential assessments. The annual residential assessments for an improved lot for the year 2019 is $1,076. For an unimproved lot, it is $641. The next item is your maintenance department that Russell just talked about. This year we had some really big budget cuts. We had to be very realistic as to what operations we could include and what operations we can what we want to do and what we can actually afford. The tree care program that Russell just described to you is not in this budget. What is in this budget, though, in Russell and his team's budget, is the stormwater operations. They are going to continue going out throughout the plantation, cleaning out drains, cleaning out pipes. Next is security operation budget. That is expanding a little bit. Toby and his team are expanding the patrol along the beach, as well as we have included an additional wildlife officer. The administration budget, we continue to have that, as Christopher knows, is the enterprise-wide implementation, which is taking all of our software and taking it all into one roof. It's going to take, unfortunately, a couple years to get this completely accomplished. The administration department also had to eliminate a position based on budget cuts. I wanted to briefly go over some of the projects that are scheduled for this year. This doesn't include everything. I didn't include, you know, if we were going to buy a new printer. I mean, I didn't think you all wanted to see that. So we have the first one is we're going to repave the road from Plantation Drive to Harbor Town. That's on Lighthouse. We're going to repave Spotted Sandpiper Road. That's been delayed several years because of the work that the town has been doing out there. And Audubon Pond Drive is also scheduled for repaving. We're going to repave and fix up the leisure paths along Plantation Drive, boardwalks at the Tower Beach that David mentioned earlier, the boardwalk number 40, which is between Whistling Swan and Spotted Sandpiper. And also we're going to be going and doing some repairs to a lot of the concrete beach paths. The computer hardware, it's time to, this is all through the reserve study, it's just time for replacement. There's some safety issues. We're going to do some engineering work down at Wren Pond, as well as some outfall decking on Baynard Park. There's going to be irrigation improvements throughout the whole plantation, maintenance equipment, security vehicles, officer body armors being replaced, and finally we're replacing 3 of the trolleys. And those trolleys they're being built as we speak and will be here before the tournament. Thank you, and I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday.
Thanks, Victoria. I'm just going to go over real quick because I know we've been here a while already and we want to get to questions and answers, some real summary information on the referendum and kind of where we are right now. So see if I can get this done. As I mentioned prior meetings, we're really working on with the referendum goal number 2 and number 3 of the referendum, which is to protect, maintain, and enhance Sea Pines' quality of life, and to assure CSA has the financial capacity to protect, maintain, and enhance Sea Pines' assets while providing expected community services. Those are the things that we're trying to get accomplished through this referendum. Specifically, roadway repair, bridge repair, the deterioration of infrastructure throughout Sea Pines. These are examples of places, but you can find these examples all over Sea Pines. If you just drive down the road, you'll see that as the surfaces of our roadways are deteriorating, we have root intrusions throughout, we have surface failures, we have road edge failures throughout Sea Pines. Stormwater infrastructure, you know, the upper left-hand corner off Governor's Road, I think that's a pretty typical pipe entrance for CSA and Sea Pines. You know, they're clogged, quite frankly. They're not functional in many cases. You can see down here, this is Club Course Road, a buried drain. We just found the drain by following the pipes. So non-functional drainage systems. Clearing of our channels that have become really deterrents to flow throughout Sea Pines. Silted lagoons, backed up storm drains, backed up because we've got root intrusions growing into those storm drains. We've got all kinds of collapses that have occurred throughout Sea Pines, many abandonments of storm. And then, of course, dredging, trying to get our lagoons back to the levels that they originally were intended to be. Russell mentioned landscaping and tree care management. I want to emphasize what we're trying to accomplish because we talk about improvements a lot. You know, when we say improvements for irrigation, we're just replacing what was abandoned years ago. We're not expanding our systems. We're finding them now and trying to replace them and fix them. We have no intention of creating Colleton River in Sea Pines. This is going to be all about natural landscaping. The species that we're talking about when we put replanting and start replanting, which we have not done, we've just taken out. And the storms have certainly impacted us. But all the species that we look at when we look at putting something back into Sea Pines where it has left is a native species. And we talked about diversity. You know, those pine trees out there, we are part of, I think I just heard, you know, they're a crop. They used to be a crop. Okay, and they have been allowed, and as Russell said, they've expanded dramatically. And we're just trying to get back to what is natural. But we've got all kinds of areas. We also have gate traffic issues, and this is an issue that's come up. Those last two was specifically stated, you know, years ago in the first survey that we did when I arrived in Sea Pines as the priorities for us to work on. Trying to get you into Sea Pines without having these delays, trying to get everybody to their home, and trying to do it in an effective and efficient manner. So, what were all those things that we had originally planned? This is in our strategic plan. This is, I think I got one more there, yes. Average spend over 7 years. We talked about stormwater dredging, which is not in the budget for next year. Tree storm repairs and mitigation, arborist, as Russell just mentioned, technology upgrades, and I think Victoria said something about that, which is in the budget for next year. Some communications improvements and updates, just, you know, being able to communicate with you, trying to get a better resources for Amanda specifically and Jean to get out there. You saw the new guide, trying to get those communications so people know where the resources are and what resources are provided. Roadways, stormwater dredging, tree storm repairs and mitigation, gate reconfiguration, which is 361. That's an average over 7 years. And I'll go to what's out of the budget here in just a moment. Landscape replenishment along the primary corridors, safety initiatives, and reserve study other than the roadways. We still have other things out there that we need to replace and repair from the reserve study. That brings us to a total of about $5.5 million a year. And we have about $3 million a year. This used to be about $2 million a year until we increased our gate fees. With that increase, we've knocked that down significantly. But we're still short to try to get this accomplished. And that's what the referendum is all about. So why is it so much? Well, I think you saw some of that from Russell. We're a big place. There's a lot to do. We've had a lot of deferment over the years. We've got a lot of acreage. We've got a lot of catch basins, 2,250 catch basins out there that we're trying to clean now so that they will flow 67 miles of community-owned roads that are paved, 17 miles of paved leisure trails, 10 acres of community-owned maintained beach access and breezeways. You know, you start adding all those things up, and there's a lot out there and a lot of things that just have not been done. Again, the referendum, just to go through quickly, I think you've all seen it. At least that's what our survey said, and a lot of you are aware of it. So it generates about $3 million a year, which is over what we need, but it helps us to build back our fund, our infrastructure reserve fund, which will, over the course of this year, also be diminished until we contribute some more back in there. We are at about, what are we at right now, Victoria? About 30% funded? 41% funded. And our target is to be between 30 and 40% funded in that reserve fund. And the reason why we go to 30 to 40%, we also look at the long run and whether we have cash for the future. We don't, you know, some our consultants on the reserve study would like us to be 100% funded, but that just means all the money's away from you and sitting in a bank account somewhere or an investment. So we believe we need to look forward at the cash needs of CSA and Sea Pines, and only to get the money that we need to do the jobs that we've identified here. Okay, where's the money come from? 1997, probably many of you have seen this chart before. We were getting about 22% of our revenues from gate fees. If you looked at Victoria's budget, we're up to almost $6 million in gate fees budgeted for next year. So we're trying to get that money funded in other manners, but it's just not quite enough. We've certainly made progress, though. We've moved from 22% to 38% from gate fees and from 72% from residential assessments. Now, this is in 2016. I believe that's going a little bit lower as we move forward. And as we balance after the referendum, we're down to about, I lost one of my tags there. This was about 50, Can you fix that by any chance, Amanda? This one. Oops. Anyway, it's about 51% are coming from now from residential assessments. Again, we're at about 5.9 million coming from gate entry passes. The resort and commercial assessments are also going up over what they have been in the past significantly. And then the real estate transfer fee, which is the final component. I'll just move on that. Again, if the referendum passes, we're still the second lowest assessment on Hilton Head Island. What's coming out? These were the planned renovations, reconstructions, improvements that were identified in the strategic plan, and this has all come out of the plan at this point until we pass a referendum. So dredging is not going to occur. Bank stabilization, the tree care and mitigation operations that Russell was talking about will not occur. Full reconstruction of North Sea Pines Drive, which is also collapsing, by the way. The pipes underneath that roadway are in terrible shape, and it needs a complete renovation. Lighthouse Road leisure trail extensions for safety are coming out. Greenwood Gate and the gate house renovations, which also includes the roadway from Club Course Drive to Sea Pine Circle, is also being deferred, as well as the $500,000 actually for 2020 is for improvements to the Ocean Gate. Then Greenwood Corridor landscaping is all coming out. And then we have a wash station that David's going to lose that he keeps trying to put back in the budget, but it keeps coming out. So anyway, in total, it's about $15 million here, plus the reserve accumulation of another about $2 million that would come from the referendum as proposed. Okay, process reminder. We've talked about this before. Where are we today? We're in the education process and feedback. We've taken a survey. We're getting feedback now. We'll close that survey next Monday. We'll do some summaries. We'll get that summary out to the community, probably in a presentation form, but also whatever we publish will be available for all to see, so you can see what you think. General feedback. Right now, we've taken some interim kind of looks at it. We've got a very high awareness of the referendum amongst property owners. There's generally strong support for the road, stormwater, landscape, tree mitigation, and gate entry. There's good support for a referendum to address. I wouldn't say it's strong, but it's very good. It's certainly within the margins. It's really now about what are the components of the referendum. And there's variable support for initial terms, but in general, more information is needed. So we're going to be compiling your questions and information requests that we're getting from that survey and providing back out. Right now, I think we're at 16 pages of information in a brochure to provide back out to address those questions for additional information. But we're going to wait till we get it all done, make sure we got it all done, get all the questions together, and make sure we do a thorough job of trying to answer those questions and provide that information. As I said, the full survey report will be made available once received from the survey vendor, and it's open till December 10th. So if you have not taken the survey yet, we would love for you to take that survey and try to give us that information in your opinion about all of these matters, because it matters to us. And with that, I'd like to take a quick break, because we've been going for over an hour, I think, at this point, and then come back for questions. 5 minutes? Thank you. Yeah, so yeah. She had been more involved with stuff. Oh, I know. Okay, if we can take our seats, we'll get started. Russell, David, Toby, you can just remember, you guys have to come to the microphone and the podium so that you're on the webinar. Russell, do you hear me? For answering questions, you need to come to the podium, so you guys might as well come on up. Victoria? Amanda has us on an X. There's a camera on us for the people that are on the webinar. Okay, go ahead, Amanda.
So just as a quick reminder for those joining us via webinar, you do have the option to ask questions. We will turn on that feature in just a second right before we open the Q&A, and you can go into the right-hand side of your column and then type your questions there from a webinar perspective. Please do try to keep them question-based so we can ask them to the presenters and get them answered for you. So we'll open Q&A.
Okay, and Amanda, David, do you have a microphone? Okay, remember, or is Marie?
I'm ready.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So we'll come to you with the microphone. Wait till you have the microphone. If you would introduce yourself and then let us know what you want to say. Dave?
David Harris. Question on the budget. The trolley costs, I think you had $477,000 for 3 trolleys. That's more than just the cost of the trolley, I assume. They're not really $159,000 a piece.
Yes, they are.
At the CSA Board of Director meeting a few weeks ago, I asked the question, I was given the price $125,000 or $130,000.
No, you were given approximately 150. I
No.
remember.
No, okay.
I mean, it's been in the budget or it's been in the reserves. Those numbers
Well,
are
I know
coming
it has been,
directly
but I
out of the
wanted to make
reserve
sure that
study. I
it's the same
apologize if there was some miscommunication, but that number has not changed. It has always been approximately 155,000. The trolleys are going to be a little bit larger, and they are going to have a little back deck for storing strollers, umbrellas, that kind of thing.
Alex?
Alex Gruden, just a couple of factual questions. One is, when will the results of the elections be known to the public, Sea Pines public?
As soon as they're ready, we
Yeah.
hope to get our them to be done by the end of this week.
End of this week, you
Yes.
think?
Yes,
Okay.
that's my understanding, yes. We had a little delay today. The post office closed on us for the president's funeral. So
One other question, factual nature. Where can all of us see the 2019 budget? And if it's on the website, where on the website?
there you go.
I have to remind myself my own reminders sometimes. Since Victoria has made her presentation today, we'll be posting it this afternoon on our website, and then we'll also send it out through our normal communication channels. It will be included on our next mass email as well for you guys. So it'll have the link, and then we'll also be able to have it on our next mass email.
So the email would have it linked directly where on the website? There are many things on the website, as you know, it's very useful.
There is, yes, sir. So it will be under CSA, which is under governance, and then it will be under our finance records, which is under the CSA tab. So that's where I will be putting it once we get out of this meeting for you.
Thank you very
You're
much.
very welcome.
Okay, others? David? Great.
Sorry. Jerry Ginsburg. I have some questions regarding the Gallery of Shops. I've heard a rumor that there's problem getting public's agreement to that project. Is that true?
There has been problem getting agreement from public since prior to us purchasing it through the whole process, yes. But we have rights as the owner of it. We're just trying, those rights refer to their ability to approve. But they still have to approve. We don't want to be in court, with them trying to get our right enforced, but they do have to, the right way to go is to get with them, and they're just not very responsive, quite frankly.
And the second question, same regard. I did this survey, and it seemed to convey a complete lack of prioritization in terms of what was most important to the community. And personally, I don't see the Gallery of Shops as having anywhere as near the importance of forestation, roadway construction, and drainage, yet they all are lumped together. Is there any thought to proceeding with something saying these are the things that we want to do first, and we'll back off on funding other things?
Yeah, and the survey does address prioritization of those 4 components. So we are getting feedback on the priorities amongst those 4 that I showed up there: roadway, stormwater, the landscaping, and entrances. So we will have a comparative result on the support for those. But as I said, all 4 are strongly supported. Okay, there is a relative difference between each of those, and we'll be publishing that information for you. Can you get Dana? David, thanks.
Hi, I have a quick question about the Gallery of Shops and also the new ABDI system. I know that Hilton Head Plantation has been able to call or digitally get passes on a computer for their guests for up to 10 days for almost the last 5 years. And this question is for Toby. Do you think this year in 2019 we're going to be able to have that capability just for, owners, friends, and relatives?
Almost hate to answer this. I don't think ABDI app for the property owners, if it goes live, it will be in the fall of 19.
Okay, so then next fall we might be able to be able to do that digitally.
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
Which would take away a lot of the need for the lovely toll plaza. This question would be for Brett. Have you ever queried all of the homeowners on really the approval of using that land for a 5-bay toll booth? I know we've talked about the need to fix the gate issues, but have you ever asked the homeowners directly, do you want to build a 5-bay toll booth?
Well, let's get to it. No, we haven't. Secondly,
we're
not going to build one. That's not in the plan. What we did was we presented a plan for approval to Publix to maximize the space. Okay, so that plan was approved. Our current renditions, which will be coming forward after we have architectural review, I think have 2 lanes or 3 lanes, and then 2 windows on a building. So that'll be coming out as we move forward. So it's not anticipated that we're going to build that. That's just what we could build. Yeah, without a referendum, we won't be doing that more than likely. Sure.
Test yellow. Test. Can you turn me up on yellow? Thank you. Question from the webinar from Ted Levitt. Based on the preliminary feedback from the referendum survey, what seems to be the biggest objection so far and challenge to overcome?
I don't know that we're conclusive yet. I think information requests is probably going to be the biggest challenge. Right now we've got enough margin, I would say, in almost all items for support. But if you can convert all the information requests into affirmative. So getting information requests and getting the information out to people, getting it easily understood, which is probably our biggest challenge, is the biggest challenge right now, is getting that out to those people who need more information to make a good decision, which is what we intend to do.
Thank you.
Hi, Karen Wells. Given that you're now contemplating a 2-bay system, has the board considered leasing a property instead, such as the former Regions Bank 2-bay facility on Pope Ave? And if we go down a road like that, how would that change the referendum?
I'm not sure. Well, not knowing what that is, no, we haven't considered it. One of the challenges with anything on Pope Avenue is traffic flow through the circle. So, the ideal position of the Gallery of Shops was that it was in the right lane coming off 278 for people who are coming in for the weekend, could take a right on that lane and get into the pass office. That's the objective without having to get into the circle itself. And as we all know, the congestion in the circle itself is a challenge. So we were looking at that corridor from Palmetto Bay coming in, and obviously the Gallery of Shops presented an opportunity. It was very proximate to the entrance into the gates. We own the road there, so we could make roadway changes if we needed to. We don't own all these other roads out there, and we have to work through the town on it. So there's a lot of positive, and we have, and the final thing I think that came up with the Gallery of Shops is there was a lot of concern about what that property would become. So those were the reasons to move forward with Gallery of Shops. Let's go to Frank, then we'll come back here.
My name is Frank Babel. This is more of a comment. I think we do a wonderful job with our wonderful leisure trail system, but we have to be reminded that these trails were built 50 or 60 years ago for conditions at that time, and many of them reflect it. It's a very important amenity for sea pines. It also is an important source of transportation. If a pedestrian or a bicyclist gets hit on the road by a car doing 40 miles an hour, they have less than a 10% chance of survival. Those are the figures. They're daunting. So we have a public service issue as well as an amenity issue. And I don't think it's being adequately addressed in this program that you have going forward. That's just a comment, doesn't need any remarks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to Karen. Sorry, Karen. And then to the webinar.
Just wanted to follow up on the second part of my question. If we eliminate the construction of a gate distribution facility, how does that change the referendum?
You saw the number, right, on
Yes.
there. That was average was 350,000. Doesn't change it much.
Okay, but
compared to the $2.5 million need.
In that,
so you can
that
do
number that
math.
you have in there, I believe you said it is was it a 5 or a 7-year number? A 7-year
Yes.
number?
And it's a 7-year number, and I'll have to go back and look at how that number was calculated versus what we represented on the budget. Because as I stated, in what came out of the 7-year plan, that included the roadway from Sea Pine Circle to the gate, or to Club Course Drive, as well as Ocean Gate. No, the Ocean Gate. Okay, but it didn't have the pass office was included in there. So you can look at that total being about $1.5 million. Take that into 7, so it's $200,000 a year plus or so. That would not be done if we weren't to do that.
And are the other numbers in that presentation 7-year averages?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Question from the webinar. This question is from Tom Ives. The beaches and dunes to the south of Tower Beach and around to the Sound have been continuously eroding. That area was not part of the renourishment. Is there any plan to add fences or abate the erosion in that area?
David, you want to talk to this? Just come on up.
All of the beach management, the fencing, the vegetation, and previous renourishment is conducted by the town of Hilton Head. And they do engineering surveys every year to calculate where sand has been eroded or accreted or built up. And as they are designing their future renourishment programs, they will rely on that data. So they use engineering and data to determine where renourishment is required. That specific segment that was mentioned in the question has historically been accreting or building up. So CSA added beach walks 11 and 12 this past year. If you go to Google and go back into the history, you can see that even 15 years ago, the beach and the dune system was very narrow there. It has built up since then to where boardwalks 11 and 12, I think on average, were 600 or 700 feet long. But as of late, there has been some erosion in that area. So it is some erosion followed previously by a long period of accretion. So the best I could answer the question is that the town does gather the data, and if they do identify an engineered need for that segment or any other segment, they have historically incorporated that into their next renourishment cycle.
Thank you, David.
Other questions? Let's go back to Sheila.
Sheila Ferguson. So on the referendum terms, it's hard for me to be able to decipher like what % of the money that's being raised comes from RPOs versus commercial versus resort. Do you have those percentages?
Can you pull up the screen? And you have to, we don't have it specifically here, but you'll be able to see the difference between revenue to CSA on our forecast versus where we were last year. We don't have a slide here of where we would be in the future, but you can see this is average 7-year revenues, and unfortunately we don't have the, can you expand on that? This number
That's right.
Okay, so that is now 8,184. So 8,184. If you would go to the previous one, the 16, and that number is 6 million. So it's a couple $1 million. Comes from residential assessments. Okay, if you go to the next slide. Okay, there's a real estate transfer fee component as well, which is 961,000 annual average. Okay, now that was calculated on just residential sales. If there are commercial sales, they would be included, but our average is based off of our experience because the commercial sales don't calculate to a significant amount. At least they haven't over the last couple of years, a few years. Okay, does that help, Sheila?
Yes and no. I mean, really what I was looking for is X percent comes from RPO related revenue raising, X percent comes from commercial, X percent comes from resort. When we say the resort is paying 100, I mean, commercial is paying 100% more than what they do with the resort. That doesn't, it's apples and oranges, and for everyone to make an informed decision, it'd be nice to have apples and oranges when comparing.
Well, actually, the amount that's generated specifically from the changes, we can call that out, and we'll put that out in our response. I've seen that same question from others in some of the initial survey results, so we'll just call that out and put it out there. Thank you. You're welcome. Others? Yes, Christopher.
Thank you. Christopher Cliff. A question of detail, please, Brett. The interval owners throughout Sea Pines are considered property owners. And I was wondering whether, if the referendum goes through, does the transfer tax capture transactions between timeshare owners who are currently treated as property owners?
If the interest in the property changes, the way the timeshares are held, they're held in a trust, or most of them are held in a trust. I'm not going to say all of them because there are a few scattered about out there as well. But is this working? Everybody here? Okay. If it's held in a trust and the trust retains it, it's not a transfer of ownership.
Doesn't it mean if the timeshares are held in trust, the interval owners of a particular unit are no longer fee simple property owners and therefore not to be counted as property owners and therefore shouldn't participate in any property owner CSA election?
No, they're owners in the trust. You know, there are some variables to that, but generally speaking, they're owners in that trust.
But my understanding of...
So if one comes in, goes out, the trust does change. You know, that the owner of the trust does change. As far as whether or not that transaction, depending on value, would be eligible for a real estate transfer fee, I'm not sure that is specific, but we can look into it.
Can I just make sure we're talking about the same trust? Are we talking about the Marriott Vacation Investment Trust?
That's one.
Based in Florida, yeah?
That's one, yes.
Right. Well,
it's more called Maury.
Yep.
Okay, and that's the trust that owns that property, or the 3 Marriott properties in Sea Pines.
It might be worth some investigation, I think.
Absolutely. We've already got someone working on it. So.
Oh, have you? Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Let's go back to Sue.
To follow up on Christopher's question, Sue Emke. To follow up on Christopher's question, that's Marriott, but what about, what is it, Swallowtail and Spicebush? Those are not. Those are not trusts. Are there 50 owners per each unit?
They are held in trust. The units are held by one entity, and they are members of that entity at Spicebush and Swallowtail. There are a few scattered timeshare, quote unquote, homes and or condominiums out there that have been put into these kind of cyclical programs, but they do have a single owner interest.
So Swallowtail and Spicebush, who is the single entity owner for those?
Victoria, you remember the name? Yeah, they've designated Club Group as their agent, so we send all notifications to Club Group.
Club Group
as
is
their
the agent, not the owner?
That's correct. So notifications and mailing purpose goes to that, but we do have the records of ownership as well, but I don't have it.
I don't know the name. Right, we have some questions from the webinar as well. This question is from Pito Vero. I heard Marsh Island Lane was going to be repaved in 2019. What is the status of that?
Yeah, there's nothing in the 19 budget at this point to repave Marsh Island Lane. We would have to check the reserve study to see when that's in the queue.
Understood.
No.
What?
Yep. Yeah, it certainly wasn't removed out of future budgets, so I just don't know exactly when.
One more follow-up question to you, Russell. This question is from Tom Hennessy. Does the tree maintenance program described include trees in the forest preserve?
It does not. We're talking about the tree survey that was conducted, just to be clear, was open space, common areas, road right-of-ways. The forest preserve is not included in any of those numbers that I presented this morning, nor is it part of any of those budget numbers that Victoria and I presented earlier. So, no.
Thank you, Russell.
Carrie, can we go to? Oh, okay. Let's start here, then we'll go to Carrie.
Yeah, hi, I'm Terry Weiss. How are you today? Would like to know if and when, I know that you've had some comments here about what's important in the survey, but there seems to be an awful lot of financial stuff that's whacked together as part of the referendum that people have real issues with. And the latest that we've all seen is that the Gallery of Shops cost us $1.4 million with easement problems, asbestos problems, insufficient parking space, is now being referred to as a, quote, land bank. That's what we've all seen. It's a land bank. Now we've got a trolley issue with an indemnification problem that I'm unsure about whether the Sea Pine Center is going to be fully indemnified under a gate agreement we've never seen. So we've got a trolley issue, and I see $400,000 in the budget all being imposed. I don't know if that's all imposed on residential, but we got a trolley issue. Then we've got the real estate transfer tax, when at last I heard we're not a taxing authority. I don't think there's a soul that would be unwilling to support the CSA staff, its excellent care of the properties, its looking after drainage, the road improvements. I don't think you have to be insane to not support all of the work that you have all detailed. But I think you've got real issues with these other problems, with the gate, with the Gallery of Shops. You've got some real issues. And I'm personally uncomfortable with all of those things being tied together. I would have no problem paying you guys $300, $500 a month. I would a year. I'd have no problem with that to support all of these incredible efforts to maintain this community. None. But I have real problems with these other issues that I pointed out. I don't think I'm alone. So I'm wondering when a determination is going to be made to take those things off the table so that we can all vote for doing things that make sense, like our trees and everything else that you've discussed.
Yeah, as I said, we're doing survey. The survey does line out gate entry separate, and we're getting feedback on that. So when we'll publish those results, and if that's, you mentioned several things I had not heard, but there are obviously information sources out there that are going out about different things, and we're trying to provide you with the best and most accurate information we can. We're also trying to seek to find out what you're interested in through that survey process, so we can address the major issues and see if we can get a referendum accomplished. But all of those are subject to everybody supporting it. In the end, the residential property owners will make this determination. They're going to make it. That's how it works. 75% of those voting, returning a ballot, will make the determination of whether we move forward with it or not. And our goal is to try to have a successful referendum. That's our goal, and that's why we're asking the questions. We're soliciting for the feedback. We're trying to compile things. We're trying to give the board information on how they can work with the resort and try to come to a referendum that will address as much as the community wants us to address. Okay, let's go to Carrie, then we'll go to Christopher.
Thanks, Brett. Carrie DeVillette. Just in follow-up from yesterday, and this is more of just a statement or reiteration from yesterday. You know, folks want information, and especially about the infrastructure and roadways. You mentioned yesterday that there has been, correct me if I'm wrong, a study done on all the roadways within Sea Pines.
Well, do you have it? Can you pull it up?
And then I know there's been one on stormwater that we've done.
Samples for that, Carrie.
So it would be really helpful, again, going forward from a budget standpoint. I know we can't stick to it, but doing the worst to first. I think it's that's more data that folks, when we go to vote for the referendum, if we know what's worst and we know what's going to be first to be repaired, it just helps us to feel more comfortable that we know that these infrastructure issues are going to be addressed.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Here's the fundamentals of our reserve study, which itemizes all of the reserve items that we have. As we move forward, we do this, calculate this every 3 years. Okay, this year is a revisit to the reserve study. So we will be going through a full reserve updating this year. Okay, this tells us the age of the roads. Can you scroll down a little bit? Oh, just go down into one of the spreadsheets that you already had up. Okay, this tells us risk. Here's some of the road components. It has useful life, remaining life, approximate values. This was done 3 years ago, okay? But we have the spreadsheets from this, so we update it as we work forward and move things around, because sometimes you look at something again after 2 years, some things deteriorated more, some things deteriorated less. But we update this constantly in our process and share this with our MEP committee as well as our finance committee. So those two groups are deeply involved in the results of these two programs, if you will, from a funding perspective and from a priority perspective. Also, you mentioned the stormwater. So if you pull up the stormwater, and I just brought the stormwater study is massive. It's available in our office. If anybody wants to come and review it, come on down. We'll be happy to let you go through and thumb through that. It's also being updated on an ongoing basis. Okay, now the printed book isn't being updated because we're killing a lot of trees by printing that book, but we have it available so you can see that. But this goes to some of the detail of the mapping of control structures and the assessment of those control structures. Can you get down a little bit so you can see the guide? And I think we've presented this once. I know not everybody's always here, but this tells you, what's operable, what's overgrown, sinkholes around structures, eroding around gate damage, non-operable, and other. So we take that and we prioritize what we're doing each year for our stormwater system. And we also use this to submit to the town for requests to make the improvements, because you're already paying that money to the town, and we'd like to get that back. They're somewhat resistant in doing that, and they're on a different budget cycle, but we keep it in front of them all the time. So these are all itemized out. This is, as I said, also available for anybody who wants to come by and take a look at it. Victoria, you're up. Do you want to say anything else about it? But we do update them. We do have them. It does help us prioritize it. As I said, conditions do change. And this was done, the stormwater was done prior to Matthew. So we have gone through and updated from Matthew with what we've experienced in the field. And of course, also, we found a lot of stuff. By what we're doing today, we're adding to the list because things have been abandoned and were not identified. Sure. Whoops.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the information that's shared with committees, like the stormwater, it would be really helpful if that would be online so that, folks that are interested, like me, have the opportunity to go there. Because I've been down in the office once and I've gone over the stormwater plan, and I appreciate that. But it would just be nice to understand, hey, I can go and look at all the streets that are going to be done for the next, X number of years, as well as what stormwater is going to be, addressed.
Well, let me also talk about this. Okay, so the budget's done annually. Okay, all we get approved for to do is what's approved annually. and that's the interaction with finance. So, you know, what's a priority may not get done. We've deferred a lot. Actually, that area of drive from the circle to club course is being deferred now out 8 years, I believe, is what that's been plugged into from a finance perspective. That may come around through MEMP and be reprioritized, but that's a dynamic and always moving situation. I don't want to mislead people either by posting something that's out of date.
Understood. I understand it's a moving target, so to speak, but it would be good just from a budgetary standpoint to know that if we have these dollars, here are the projects we anticipate and are dedicated to doing. Yeah. Because what I think most would hate to see is, hey, we've got this street, you know, my street's going to get repaved in 2 years, and all of a sudden now the money goes someplace else. And unless we understand, hey, there was a major infrastructure collapse, then you understand that. It's just,
you know, what may be clearer and easier for people to get a grasp of is our 7-year plan. And that's something I think we could, you know, that's something that we've worked on, not from a third party, but gather that third party data. And that's the really determination of the board and the MEMP committee and the finance committee to look through that 7-year plan and understand what's in that 7-year plan. I think that's more feasible for us to manage as well. And it gives you a picture of the next 7 years of the projects that are listed in that. And they're very similar to what we have in the reserve study. It's just not as detailed, but they're the big projects. Because we have very small stuff in the reserve study. I mean, we have that available. Mark's over here shaking his head. I think the board would agree to that. And I think that would be helpful for people to get a better understanding of what the sequence is as well. Okay, you're welcome.
Brett, we have 2 on the webinar as well.
Okay, let's do one, then we'll do Dana.
Perfect, thank you. Question from Rich Stouffer. Has a solution for providing non-resident beach access parking during the summer been determined? And if so, will any cost be offset with a daily fee similar to last year? So I believe this is.
We did have an interim increase for picking up a pass for a weekly pass holder at the gate. That is anticipated to continue next year. As the primary issue with that is the location of pass pickup has to be changed. But on the trolley question itself, or service to the beach, that has not been, that's a matter before the board. It has not been determined at this time. I think the board wants to get their new board seated, and we'll bring it up in the January, February sessions.
Okay. One more quick follow-up question. Have a question from Ted Levitt, just wanting to know how many people joined via webinar, and currently we had 42 people joined via webinars. Just want to get that.
Let's go to Dana. I'm sorry, you got skipped, Dana.
Hi, I have a quick question about the ASPO bylaws. I think the deadline is next week. Is it the 10th or the 15th?
The deadline was extended per the slide to January 15th, 2019.
Okay, so we have until January.
Mm-hmm. The email went out yesterday, and the
great.
bylaw comment collector has been extended
Fantastic.
to January 15th,
great.
2019.
Okay.
Thank you, Dana.
Christopher.
Christopher Cliff, thank you, Brett. Brett, you've mentioned more than once today that the results of the survey in some form will be published. Mark, at the last CSA board meeting, on behalf of the board, mentioned that the board had not decided to publish. Are you now making announcements on behalf of the board that
publish
will be published? That'd be great.
Oh, you're talking about the survey results? Yeah, we've always published our survey results.
No, but Mark said at the last board meeting that the board hadn't decided it was going to be published or not.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's all I just wanted to ask. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Yes, I'm sorry. USCB is going to come present the survey results and report that they're going to prepare for us with any recommendations that come from that or key thoughts. We're hoping early January. We're dealing with Christmas, of course, and trying to get their vacations and all that coordinated. They don't give us all the raw data, but they give us summary format. You know, you'll see a lot of data. I know that, but I don't know if you'll have all the raw data. We don't get that either.
Karen Kinderman. I think the last webinar question related to the $10 per day interim parking fee at Beach Club.
Oh, the parking fee.
Yeah.
Oh, Steve just left too.
I think that's what it was.
They have informed us that they want to be out of the parking business. They don't want to charge, and they're going to limit it to just those people that qualified for non-paid parking this year, because they had a big challenge down there. So that's why we're trying to come up with an alternate idea, and the short-term rental committee has been making recommendations. I don't think anybody's solid on it yet, so we're still moving it forward to the next board, and we'll bring it up in January and February. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, the short-term rental committee suggested that we run a trolley between Memorial Day and Labor Day from lot 8 to the Beach Club, which the resort supports because they don't want to be in the parking business. They also recommended, this is short-term rental, that we increase the weekly rental parking pass permanently from $15 to $20 to support those additional expenses, which I know on Facebook it's been suggested that that's a substantial $700,000 or $800,000 expense, and in fact it's about $70,000 expense. The gate entry committee supports that operation, don't support raising the $15 pass to $20, and we've sent staff back to say, tell us exactly what it's going to cost, tell us exactly how it's going to work. We'll run it through the two committees, and hopefully in January, February, we can have a solution. So that's where this is. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Have a great holiday season. We'll see you next year, if not before.